Why do you think that?
I think you have a sense of mechanics, just looking around the room. Guitars, anyone who likes guitars likes gear. They like how things work.
But I get a lot of the guitars for free. I'm not a gear nerd.
Look at you.
I'm not flexing.
It sounds a little flexy, but you deserve it.
What I'm doing is I'm trying to prove to you that I'm not a gearhead. I don't know. I don't know much about any of this shit.
Okay.
But I can work a tool.
Yeah,
you telling me you can't do a tool?
I can do like a wrench.
Right, a wrench. So you can put together an IKEA thing, right?
I don't even like props as an actor. I'm like, I can't hold this pen.
Well, that's terrible. Eating pens, terrible.
Yeah, terrible.
Then you're worried about continuity. It's all of a sudden your issue.
I worked with James Spader once, and he is from an acting school where it's all about the props. He would walk through scenes like, all right, so I'll put the pen down here, and then I'll pick up the cup of coffee here, and then I'll finally touch the doorknob and out. That's how he plans a scene. I think it's a school, I
don't know if it's a school. I think it's how guys who've been doing it a long time keep it interesting. Because I worked with Eric Stoltz on my show, and he really wanted to eat. And and it was a thing. He wanted to eat the salad. Like, if you put food in front of me in a scene, I'm going to do everything I can not to be eating. I'll hold the fork.
Right.
I'll act like I just swallowed something.
Yep.
But the chewing and eating, don't want to do it.
Let me talk and look around.
And maybe put a fork down. I'll put the fork down.
Yeah.
Just finished.
What am I doing here?
What do you mean?
Why'd you invite me?
Because you got a show out.
Oh, yeah, sure. But, like, Mark, come on. We know how you feel about me.
Well, that's the old Mark.
I don't know. Is it the old Mark?
Or kinda, yeah, for the most part.
I'm a fan. I was just listening to your interview.
You're a fan?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not going to not listen. But you were just saying like two episodes ago, like your first impression, you never shake a first impression of somebody.
Well, I think what happened
I've heard you break open. Of course. So I believe what you're saying, but I also believe, like, come on.
Well, I mean, but shaking a first impression and that first impression being reasonable or correct are two different things. Like, if I can't shake something yet I know I'm wrong, I can live with that. And I can adjust.
You can live with it, but you never.
Adjust.
In my experience, I have a first instinct, and then I mentally can get way out of that, but I always revert to my first instinct. So I think you.
Well, maybe I'm just trying to figure it out today.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm here.
No.
To figure something out.
No, absolutely not.
Okay. You're like, no, I know how I feel.
The last time I saw you was on the porch of the Comedy Store. I don't know what you were doing there, but you were meeting someone there.
Okay.
And you came up to me, or I came up to you, and I said, hey. And you looked at me and said, we're now cosmically connected.
Yep, I do feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because of me, my behavior. And I said, yes, I did that. I did that. Yeah. And you said, okay, I don't remember what you said.
Well, I'm in the Maron verse.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I'm a character in the Marc Maron world.
Your name comes up in every season.
Yes,
in a derogatory way. You didn't watch the show, though, did you?
I did not watch the show. I was told about the show, and it did not make me want to watch the show.
But it was. I thought it was good-hearted ribbing.
It didn't sound. It
vicious, wasn't. No, nasty. No. I think that most of what was going on in terms of my opinion of you early on, because I talked about it with my producer, because you did do a live WTF.
Yep.
I don't think there was a problem. I think we kind of got through some of the stuff.
I mean, not enough. Here I am. It was 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what bothered me initially about you?
Yes. I mean, no point coming here without getting...
At this?
Yeah, getting real. That's the whole fun.
Yeah, well, I can be real. It's so hot, though. Isn't it hot? Or am I just nervous? Am I nervous? You making me nervous, Novak?
I mean, I should be the nervous one.
You're not nervous. Yeah, I mean, this is like this. I know this angle. You're just going to turn it on me and
what?
And
I've been thinking about this for a long time, but I'm not here to.
Why don't you tell me how has it made you feel? I mean, is it something that you think about? Like, what's Marc Maron's problem with me?
Yeah, a little bit. But I also think you can't help but be self-conscious, and I think I went through phases, and then I was happy, like, you know what? You put yourself out there, and that's the fun of it. Some people just don't like people. Some people like other people.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a reason, sometimes there's no reason.
Right.
I feel that way about all kinds of people.
We do?
Yeah, sure.
So you have problems with people for no reason.
And then I changed my mind. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. But you did enough homework on listening to my show to know that at some point I said first impressions never go away.
Yeah. Recently.
Yeah. Do you listen to the podcast?
I listen a lot. Not always,
yeah. Well, I think the original problem was just, basic jealousy, resentment, probably, like, because I think that on some level, I've kind of had to put it into some perspective after watching 5 episodes of The Premise. 5. I watched all the ones that were available.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah. I bought a copy of your dad's book, the Jewish humor book, the edited Jewish humor book.
The Big Book of Jewish Humor.
The big book of Jewish humor. Yeah. And I found it. I don't know why. Maybe someone sent it to me, but that was your dad. You grew up with that book.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was an important book.
Very important book. Yeah.
In your family.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in all Jewish families, it's almost.
It's like the classic bar mitzvah gift. Yeah. Because it makes being Jewish kind of fun.
Yeah.
It's better than like the Torah.
And then, I started watching the show, and in retrospect, I got a copy of the book right here. I brought it out just because I thought I wasn't going to bring it up in some sort of look at this, your dad. But it is your dad. And then I watched. Did you write the episode, the butt plug episode?
Yes.
Like that. That's basically a Jewish book.
Yeah, I guess so.
Structurally,
yeah, it's very structured. Yeah.
You could tell that story with that tag,
right?
In 5 minutes as a joke.
Yeah, and then the game of this was how do you make it feel epic, right? Sort of like the Aristocrats of a one-liner.
Did you did think of that when you were doing it?
Yeah, I mean, I thought of sort of how would you add as much possible depth to something that simple.
So was because the entire, and I'll get back to my original opinion of you, but because I did contextualize you in light of my experience with you before, my judgment of you then, and then your output since. So now I think after watching The Premise and familiarizing myself with your children's book work and your short fiction. And your brief period in stand-up, some of your acting, some of your directing stuff. I mean, I thought about you, and I thought, well, how am I going to reckon with this guy in terms of my feelings about him? What are they based on?
Yes.
Well, we are. But what I want to know about the premise, the premise of The Premise was to deal with topical issues that have some juice to them culturally, in a way, a fictionalized sort of dramedy-ish kind of form.
Take a story, fly into it, and sort of what Black Mirror does for tech.
It feels Black Mirror, but not
I like
not menacing.
But this is more like this is the comedy drama of real life.
I could feel the Black Mirror influence. But the person who made, I don't know who,
Charlie Brooker.
Charlie Brooker?
Yeah.
Does he talk in front of each episode?
No, but he does another show where he does talk.
About
Screen
that?
Wipe. No, he's also a host. I don't know why he doesn't. I mean, I think that show makes...
The idea of hosting and having your face on the billboard, what was it?
The billboard was not my call.
But it's like Rod Sterling. It's not
I did
sound.
like... Yeah. I like the idea. It sounds like you don't. I like the idea of hosting because I thought, I like when Rod Serling came on. I like when Hitchcock came on. I like the idea that there is someone showing you something.
I didn't see any of those.
Oh,
because I saw the screeners.
Got it.
I was gonna watch.
They're very, very brief.
I was gonna watch.
Gives a little flavor character.
The first one is on now.
Yeah,
currently.
the first two are on. Yeah.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, and
so
by
I
the
could
time
have
this
watched.
airs 3.
Yeah, I could have watched the talking.
I don't think you'll like it.
Why wouldn't I like it?
Well, I mean, maybe I'm overthinking our relationship. It's a little funny. I mean, it's like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey guys, here it is, and I try to be a little funny or tease it a bit, but it's really just to give some character.
Well, season. Well, I mean, how many did you write? You wrote all of them?
I wrote or co-wrote all of them, yeah.
Because I thought you got some real good acting out of people somehow.
Thanks.
I mean, Bernthal, that's probably as good as I've seen him.
He's amazing.
But I also thought the guy that played the in the butt plug guy, that guy was good.
He's amazing. Eric Lang.
I don't know who. I think I've seen him around.
He was in Escape from Dannemora, where he was amazing. And then Daniel
Day
Kim, of course, is very...
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, he's great.
So you got good actors. And,
great actors,
and the guy who played Justin Bieber, I forget his name.
Lucas Hedges.
He's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. And the girl was in Lynn's movies and Booksmart.
Caitlin Dever, yeah.
Yeah, she's good. So a lot of good acting.
Yeah.
And the first episode about the white, the sort of liberal fraud ish. That's the first one that's
Social
on.
justice sex tape.
Social justice sex tape.
Yeah.
So you're thinking about this. So how does the writing process start for you? You're like, well, this is, a hot topic. I know people like this guy. I might be kind of like this guy. How do we sort of unpack the bullshit of that?
It goes the other direction for me. I think what is funny And
really?
I think what is funny, and then the only ideas that survive are the ones that, oh, you could actually go a little deeper there. So what's funny to me is, what if you saw, a police brutality racial incident in the deep background of your sex tape?
That was the original idea. That's what you you were one day you were like, okay.
Well, the first idea was, what if a guy had an affair, filmed it, and then saw a ghost in it, like a supernatural ghost with a prophecy, but couldn't show it to anybody,
right?
Because he wasn't supposed to film it. He was cheating. Basically, what the hell does he do with this prophecy? And then I was just talking about it with Dan Mintz, actually, who helped out on my show.
Did he? Mm-hmm. You guys are still buddies?
Oh yeah, yeah, really good friends.
Did you go to school together? Mm-hmm. At Harvard?
Yep.
Right.
So anyway, he was the one who said, well, what if it's, it was during all of that. And then that thought, oh my God, that's so rich. All these characters, who were the lawyers, who's the defendant, who's the guy.
Right.
And then it became depth. But, you remember me from the early days, I'm a one-liner guy. So it's basically, what are the one-liners that could turn into, that had depth, and those are the ones that became episodes.
I guess you're a one-liner guy, but it seems like there's almost something, like I was. Right, as a comic, but not generally as a writer. Obviously, you've moved on from there. But there are there are intellectual conceits here, right? And a lot of that stuff. There's an exercise in these episodes. I think the cross-examination, the second cross-examination of the white liberal guy, that to deconstruct that personality, that was sort of an intellectual exercise.
Yeah.
And then there was the when she goes for the valedictorian in that one, where she kind of lays out that thing for Ed Asner in the virtual reality. That is definitely, that's almost a term paper.
Yeah, I mean, I like that kind of thing.
No, I do. I'm just trying to get...
No, but I'm saying, some people don't. I really do. I like Oscar Wilde. I like people that have things that get quoted that can be pulled out as pieces, that can stand alone, that are jagged, that, Team America, that famous scene with Dixon, Pussies, and Assholes. To me, that's the legacy of Team America. Right. It's not that Team America is a perfectly structured movie. It went for philosophical swings. And I think for a half-hour show, that's kind of why I wanted to do these self-standing stories. Because for me, it's sort of like, not what's the meme of it, but what's the memorable part?
Well, also, even in the corporate kind of presentation of that guy,
the
butt plug, that, that was sort of satirizing that type of presentation to the point where, it becomes convincing. That you had to think of a context through which initially... whatever his analysis was, despite the fact that they were uncomfortable with the butt plug initially, they could apply it to other corporate products. And by the end of it, they're like, well, maybe a butt plug's okay.
What's a butt plug that could change the world? And then I have to go out and write a presentation that convinces people, that could be the iPhone.
And you wrote that?
Yeah.
All of that? Mm-hmm. So what were you basing that on?
Well, that, not to give away the episode, although certainly you could maybe see it coming, but that's the whole tension of the episode.
No, I get it, but that presentation...
I thought, the presentation?
Yeah, did you, do research, or did you watch other presentations?
I did research to the extent of, okay, what are the numbers? How could you justify this?
Right.
How could it save lives?
Those are real numbers?
Yeah, those are real numbers. And
so did you have to sit there with
how many lives
else?
Could you save if it had a colonoscopy camera in the butt plug, and if you could do this and that? And,
but were you pitching that around with people, or that was just
that was
solo journey?
Yeah, I had a little help from a couple writers, but that was basically me.
Yeah.
No one else is going to write butt plug like that.
Yeah, well, that's sort of one of those ones where it's very much like Black Mirror. In
yes
structure.
And no. Yes, in structure, yeah.
Yeah, just like, the title.
Yeah.
And then, where we going with this.
Yeah, and how seriously can you take something?
And it's about, and sort of the moral is the bullying business.
Mm-hmm. Or the moral question, because both of these men can't escape it.
Yes. But it's got a double punch.
Yes, it sort of does, yeah.
And the second punch sort of it diminishes a little bit the first punch. Because you're
yes, correct. Yeah, both of them have these psychoses due to their trauma, in a sense.
Uh-huh.
Or not, one of them does,
Yeah. So after watching this and seeing these parts in the shows where you say they're memorable and they're philosophical, well, they are, but there are also things that your brain works on. So, like in looking at the arc of who you are and what my reaction to you initially was just that, like, this guy's a disciplined motherfucker who is, who has an understanding of whatever his talent is. He knows its limitations to some degree, and he knows how to apply it to whatever it is that he wants to accomplish, and he will achieve those things. And to me, that is enviable, and also makes me wonder, like, well, I mean, I knew you as a comic, briefly. I think you, at the time, knew enough, not unlike many guys I started out with, that you didn't want to be a comic for life because it was not something you were going to be able to do and make the big money.
I did at the time. Whatever I do, I commit to. I mean, in retro, I don't think anyone thought I was going to be it forever, and I see what you see, look back. But when I was in it, I was like, I gotta be the best ever. I gotta.
But you were already writing television.
I was between. I was between that when I started.
So, so you got to be the best ever.
Whatever I do, I start like that, and then yeah.
Huh.
The grin on your face, you're like, I don't know if I saw that in you. But you could be fine.
No, but I mean, I get it. I'm just comparing you to me because that's all I can do because I'm like relatively narcissistic.
Did you ever? Yeah.
But I've gained some empathy over time. If I've gained anything, it's a broadening of my empathy. What were you going to ask me?
Did you? And I think I know the answer. I think you vacillate, knowing you, between in your life. I'm the greatest and I'm the worst, right?
Well, no, I don't know that I ever think like I'm competitive, and I knew I wanted to be a great comic. I don't know that I would ever believe I'm the greatest.
Oh, I never wanted to be the greatest. I'm like, I'm going to be great.
Yeah, I do. I do believe I've done good work, and I'm somewhat underappreciated. So that might be a problem between you and I, is that you do, at that time, okay work.
And overappreciated.
Overappreciated. But, I mean, I don't know, why that is. Do you?
I think my work was good and on the path to very good. I think it was just more easily sellable.
But what do you think? Yeah.
I mean, as a writer, you could say, okay, this guy writes tight jokes.
Right.
As a persona, it's like, okay, you could plug him into whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
But I guess my assumption, not unlike any other bitter old man who does comedy, because we talked about that time where I went on stage after you.
Good evening.
We talked about it on the original podcast because I was sort of hung up with it, and it was probably closer to because I watched you do your jokes, and then I went up there and just kind of riffed about something and killed. And you just came up to me and very earnestly said, how do you do that?
I could never do that. Yeah.
What? Why couldn't you do that?
Because I wasn't. My sort of struggle or path, if you use it, towards empathy, is towards letting go and opening up and being myself. That is what is very hard for me. So that is why my jokes and my acting so tightly written, so impersonal. It was, how do I write the funniest possible thing, and how do I say it as best I can? And I did fine, you know. But what I could never do, and I'd like to be able to do someday, is say, here is me, and I don't know what to make of this, and what do you think?
And you still haven't been able to do that?
I would like to try again and see.
But not in stand-up, in anything.
In anything. I think that I come out around the edges, and I think that a lot of creative people do. Like, my children's book is not personal,
right?
But it shows, okay, there is some sort of meta rebellion creativity in me that I didn't get in childhood.
Yeah.
This is what I wish my parents had said when they read a kid's book, and so that is very me. Yeah. But it's certainly not, autobiographical.
Did your dad write kids' books?
My dad, no.
Never did.
I think he might have written a manuscript for one once that he showed me.
Is he still around?
Yeah, yeah.
So he
drove me here.
No. He edited the big book of the Jewish humor. He co-wrote a few autobiographies.
Yeah.
The Lee Iacocca one and some of Nancy Reagan and somebody else. Was he a Republican Jew?
No.
It was just.
He did a lot of liberals too. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't look at his resume. He
worked with Tip O'Neill. He worked with George Stephanopoulos. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Magic Johnson.
Yeah.
Exciting for me.
Yeah. Do you get to meet Magic Johnson? How old were you?
Oh, I was like 12. It was amazing.
The best.
Yeah, incredible.
They still live in New England?
My parents did.
So why is it? What were you doing? How many siblings do you got?
2 younger brothers.
How they doing?
They're doing great.
Yeah? They in show business?
Yes, my middle brother is a composer for TV. He
Really?
did BoJack Horseman.
Music?
Yeah.
Did he go to Harvard?
No.
Oh. He got a job at BoJack Horseman?
Yeah, he's the composer for it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Is he like Danny Elfman?
He worked on my
style?
show, too. He did the Caitlin Deaver episode.
Oh, he did?
Yep.
All right. So if you weren't, what was it you were brought up with that would, make you so compulsively kind of competitive and focused to the point where you are still hobbled in being able to be comfortable?
That is a great question. I don't know. My parents never understood it. They did not put any pressure on me whatsoever. I was like, I'm going all the way. They're like, calm down.
Going all the way.
They were the opposite of Tiger
like,
parents.
Like 7?
Yeah. Oh, younger. Yeah.
Like, what do you first remember?
I
where you
remember
somebody.
I remember asking my dad. He mentions this a lot. If a kid could win the Nobel Prize, which he thought was hilarious. I meant it.
Yeah.
I wanted to be an inventor. I wanted to be a billionaire. I wanted to be all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Like whatever was sort of greatness.
Yeah.
I just thought that was the only thing to do.
Right.
And
you don't remember.
And I'm sure that there's a flip side. Like I felt I was nothing unless I did something huge.
Right. But
like it always comes from that too. But I don't know what that is.
But did you have heroes at that age?
Einstein.
So Einstein was your
like
hero,
whoever you could read a kid's book about.
Yeah.
Like who is ...
Okay, yeah.
All those people.
Einstein.
The greats, yeah. Einstein a lot, yeah.
Did you go the math direction ever?
It's weird. Like a chemical thing kicks in around puberty. You suddenly continue in math or you don't. I did. You know what I mean? I was good at math as a kid.
Yeah, you were good? And then
I was good in 5th grade.
And that was it.
Wasn't a prodigy. Yeah. And then they say if you want to know if someone's a celebrity, ask them to fill out a form. Mm-hmm. Like there's just something that that you can no longer do. Like I was just 14. I was like, I don't fucking math anymore.
Yeah,
like I'll do it.
How are you going to impress anybody with math?
Yeah, that's true.
So you always had this compulsion to be the best, to be great, to be famous, and to be known for inventing something.
Yeah.
So you think that one's going to happen?
Inventing something?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm now at the point where I'm trying to make sense of all this.
Right. Well, I guess that children's book, it's weird about children's book that if you write a good one, which you did, it's forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you'll be making money off of that.
And that is the purest thing I ever did. That is one thing where I wasn't like, how do I make a great children's book? I was like, oh my God, I know exactly what to read this 3-year-old. I'm going to go home and write it.
Well, you don't have
and
kids.
it's going to crack them up. No, it's my friend's kid.
Oh, it's your friend's kid. You experimented on your friend's kid.
Well, don't phrase it like that.
No, I know.
It's not
but
a quote. But yeah, I would read him books and I was like, oh boy, I know what he's going to like. And I went home and wrote it.
And then did you try it out on him?
Yeah. And he didn't actually like it. But at that point, I was into it. I was like, oh no, this is going to work. He's just too young.
Tell people what the conceit of the book is.
The book with no pictures. And it's a book where the adult sort of breaks the fourth wall and it's like, what kind of book is this? And then it makes the grown-ups say silly words and make fun of themselves and protest.
But there's no pictures.
There's no pictures. But the conceit is, I bet you think this book would be boring, but look what it's going to make me do.
Right. And kids love it.
Kids love it.
That's an amazing thing. So you did invent something.
Yeah, well.
Now, is this something you're going to do more of?
I'd like to, but I guess I'm a little precious about that because I really do care a lot. I wouldn't just do it for money. I'd have to
do another kid's book.
Yeah.
So you didn't do the first kid's book for money?
No.
You did it because you wanted to try to write a great children's book.
I just honestly it sounds so like a life lesson. I wanted to make children laugh. Honestly, I thought it'd be the most fun thing in the world, and I made more money on it than on anything else.
In your life.
That's the lesson. Yeah. That's the lesson.
How the short stories and the essays sell?
They did fine.
Yeah,
they totally did fine.
You happy with those?
Yeah.
Did you cram those? Like once you got the deal, did you write like 12?
Books?
No,
stories.
Stories.
Oh, yeah. There's 64 stories in the book. I wrote like 200.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just went on a tear. It was right after The Office, and I was like all brain like melted from like 8-9 years in a writer's room, and I just wanted to just write on my own every idea that I'd never expressed.
So early on, so you're growing up with no pressure from your parents, but this amazing amount of ambition to be great.
Right.
So when you're like in your teens, what were you doing to try to figure that out? When did you know it was going to be writing?
I was always good at writing, and I never thought it was anything interesting.
Do you have a teacher that drove you there?
Sure. I mean, it was my natural thing as opposed to math, but I thought it was like, I didn't think it was anything interesting.
What did you write that made you believe
know, whatever.
you were good
I would goof off and write a funny essay, and I don't know.
Really? In high school?
Sure, but like I just thought, well, I like being funny, and here's this assignment. But I didn't think it was cool or anything. And then
were you cool?
No, I wasn't uncool. I always say like everyone's like, I sat in front of the bus, I sat in the back of the bus. I sat in the middle of the bus. Most kids sit in the middle of the bus. That's how buses are built. But like I was like a normal, I don't know, I wasn't cool, I wasn't uncool.
You could move through the groups. You were always
I couldn't,
funny?
because the cool kids wouldn't take me in.
They wouldn't?
No, but...
So then you weren't cool.
I wasn't cool, but I wasn't uncool.
Was you wearing a...
I was just like, whatever, he's just a kid.
Oh, yeah?
He's kind of funny, he's kind of awkward, I don't know.
So that was it. So you
Well, it's not binary, is it?
Kind of.
I didn't see it that way.
Well, I mean, maybe it's not, but I think that there is a middle zone.
I was like, you can do your homework and like find a party with weed now and then.
Yeah.
Like that's where I was.
Right. Well, but I feel that there's a middle zone of people that are almost cool and can usually hang out with the cool kids once in a while.
Yeah, sure. That's middle to me. Is that what you were?
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah.
But I would say I would characterize it more slightly without a sense of self and kind of desperate for friends.
Okay.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. That was my middle. Was that like, I didn't care about jocks, and there were several different factions of cool kids, and I wasn't that big a druggie, but I found a crew of guys that I thought were, that I really wanted to hang out with, and I tried very hard to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I succeeded.
Yeah. And you did that probably by being funny.
Yeah, funny.
Yeah, for them, you made them
annoying
laugh.
and annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I do. I could make the cool kids laugh sometimes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and then you're sort of like, he's all right. And then,
yeah. And then there was a senior show at my high school that was like it was a big deal at the end of senior year. You write like a parody show.
Yeah.
And I remember like a genuinely cool kid coming up to me in the cafeteria and saying, the word is you're the one to write the senior show. And I was like, oh, this is it. This is my calling.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that's supposed to write funny things for the cool kids.
Yeah.
And that's what I've done ever since. And literally, John Krasinski was in that high school class with me and starred in the show. So
and he remembers?
Yeah, of course he remembers.
You guys were friends in high
He
school?
doesn't remember me? Yeah, we're friendly, yeah. But like literally, I've been like, writing for the more popular kids like my whole life.
And Krasinski, yeah. But was he a cool kid?
He was a cool kid, yeah.
Yeah. Tall.
Tall, basketball player.
Oh, yeah. But nice guy?
Yeah.
In high school?
Yeah.
Really? Mm-hmm. Not a dick?
Nope.
Were there dicks?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's high school. Everyone was lovely. Yeah.
But would you go to public school?
Yeah, like a good public school.
In Newton?
Newton South, yeah.
Yeah, Newton was that area. Like, it's weird, too. Like, how Jewish? Because Boston Jews are different. They're not the same as New York
Tell
Jews.
me. Yeah.
They're I think they try to pass more somehow.
Interesting.
That there's maybe more of them are German Jews.
Well, my father is Canadian.
Oh, Canadian
and I have
Jew?
a friend
from
once
Montreal?
Said, good guess, Toronto, but that's its own thing.
Yeah.
And a female friend once said, "Oh, that's my dream, a Canadian Jew."
Yeah.
I said, "Why?" She's like, "It takes the edge off."
Yeah, it does.
So a little bit of a proper.
Well, there's also like the weird thing between like German Jews and just standard Ashkenaz Jews. Mm-hmm. Like there's a peasant Jew and then there's a German Jew thing.
Right.
And the German
closer
Jews,
to peasant Jew.
Yeah.
But I get it.
You look, you seem like that. I mean, you look kind of peasant Jew.
I'll take it.
But the German Jews are like they're
like wasps.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that wasn't what it was. It was a Canadian Jew.
Yeah, they just immigrated through Canada.
Your mom too?
No, Connecticut, like normal.
Normal
like
Jew?
Jap girl.
Jap girl.
Yeah. I've never said that, but yes.
Well,
Stanford, Connecticut,
Yeah, I get it. But originally from New York, her family, or always Connecticut kind of thing?
She was from Stanford. I think her dad lived in Brooklyn.
Did you know your
before
grandparents?
Romania or whatever.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So you had all the grandparents growing up?
No, I had a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then lost them shortly after.
And how Jewy was it for you?
I mean, I grew up kosher home. I still kind of
kosher home?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really Jewy.
Yeah. I mean,
they still do it?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, pretty Jewish.
So you did Friday and Saturday on your bar mitzvah?
I did Saturday in the bar mitzvah.
Oh, so
we weren't like Shomer Shabbos.
Mm-hmm.
But
if you're going into
but two sets of utensils, that's not nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And do you
No, that's real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your father was pretty religious?
Yep. Still is, yeah.
Yeah, still is.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you feel about it?
I'm somewhat religious too.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you study Torah?
No. I don't study Torah currently, no.
But have you?
I mean, bar mitzvah, yeah, as a kid.
But that's just it, huh?
Mm-hmm.
But you don't read, like, if you look at your dad's.
If you handed me a Hebrew book, I wouldn't.
No, but I mean, but just like philosophically, like you're doing a show now that deals philosophically with issues, and the way that you present. Is it influenced in any way by your education around Judaism?
Oh, completely.
It is.
Yeah.
How so?
Well, I think there's a structure of comedy that is very, how does the unlikely person outsmart somebody?
Right.
What is sort of the unlikely twist that you could have seen coming if you had thought of it? It's a very structured sense of comedy that I loved growing up.
Right. Yeah. So who were your guys growing up?
Well, one that Jonathan Katz. Was like a hero in our house.
Did your folks know him?
Yeah, because he lived in Newton, and he loomed very large. He was a famous comedian, and his show Dr. Katz.
And he had this funny. Well, when I worked with him, he had the guitar with the cassette bit, where he would play. He would do the song. I can't remember what it was. He played. I don't remember if it was a guitar or bass, but he would do to close. He would do a song that we all knew, and then like it would be his voice just doing it. It was like an old one, Save the Last Dance for Me, or something weird like that.
Right.
And he would just be singing it, and then out of nowhere, this background voices would happen.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I know. That's it.
Yeah.
What song is that?
Save the Last Dance for Me.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So that was like I used to work with him as a comic.
Yeah.
Like
and you were on Dr. Katz.
I was on Dr. Katz, maybe twice, but like he was like not unlike me. In that scene, it's kind of an anomaly because Boston comedy was not in any way Jewish.
Really?
Not really.
Stephen Wright?
He's not Jewish. Is he?
Stephen Wright?
Is he Jewish? I don't think he's Jewish.
I assumed.
I don't think so.
Really?
No.
Okay. David Cross?
Yeah, but that's after. But like the core group of the guys who were working like the clubs in comedy.
Okay.
Like Mike McDonald.
Oh, that
Warren
Boston
McDonald.
Comedy.
Then there's
Jimmy Tingle.
Jimmy Tingle, but he was one of the more sophisticated
Yes, he was
ones.
the sophisticated because he had a theater show.
Lenny Clark,
Yep.
Kenny Rogerson, Don Gavin, Kevin Knox.
And who did the comedy
Joe
connection?
Yannetti.
Hosted every...
Well, there was one guy, Seisler.
Okay.
Rich Seisler, who passed away. Bob Seibel, I don't believe was a Jew. There were all these
guys. It's a rough, Steve
Sweeney.
Yes, that's the name I was looking for. Yes.
Sure. Yes. Well, these are the guys that, I started comedy opening for those guys on one-nighters. Okay. That's how it started for me. There was no alt clubs. And Cross, well, that's a long story. I used to stay at his house all the time, and we've had... This is a good problem. This is similar with you in stand-up in a way where I have interviewed David Cross 2 or 3 times since he became huge. Like I remember when he left for LA with Cross Comedy, which was an improv or a sketch group, and I went on to go to New York to pursue stand-up. So he came here to do the group thing. I went there, and his stand-up was always abstract. It was hard sell when you go to Dedham. Mm-hmm. Like he tells a story about playing Jimmy's in Dedham, and a guy came up out of the audience and bit his ear. But because of our background as comics, and I know him for years, and he's obviously done great things, much beyond stand-up. Mm-hmm. I've said to him to his face, not thinking it was offensive, twice on the radio, who would have known that you would be the guy to get successful?
Okay.
And at some point, he just looked at me and goes, I knew.
Yeah.
And I'm like... But
you have to feel or why would you do it?
That's right. But in my mind, I just remember being on stage, off stage, waiting for him to finish opening at the front in Vermont, bombing, just going like, come on in, just bring me up. You don't have to stay up there.
Isn't that sort of Larry David's trajectory too? He was that kind of comic.
I think so. Yeah. But I think he was a little more
honestly
so
ballsy because you will be hated by the crowd and you can bear it because you believe in yourself.
But he would.
I could not do.
I think Larry was actually angry at them. It seems. Mm-hmm. But David was doing something abstract.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Like David was, he would do these characters. I mean, he was definitely alienating them, and he knew he would. But it was truly funny. Mm-hmm. Like he did all these different characters. He would do he would take real chances with, he would go up on stage doing a gay voice for like 10 minutes.
Okay.
And go so over the top with it that people would start, laughing. And he would stop and go, I don't know if you're laughing at me or you're laughing and he really kind of took it.
That's funny.
It was more Kaufman-esque than just
I love that
fuck
stuff.
you.
Yeah.
But so that's interesting. So John was a family friend, Cats.
Yeah.
And you guys, how's he doing?
He's doing good.
Oh,
yeah.
Good.
Yeah, he's lived with MS for so long.
Yeah, he actually emailed me. I think he emailed me complimenting me on something. It was very nice. He's always been a sweet guy and really good.
Guitar.
No, he didn't send me a guitar. Good friends with David Mamet, which is hard to understand sometimes. But you go back with people, and as they change, sometimes you just tolerate it. Mm-hmm. But so, how did he impact you? So you're saying that as you were a kid, the funny people that had an influence on you. John was one.
Yeah, well, he was a one-liner guy.
Sure.
And very written and structured. So I thought that's what comedy was.
Yeah. And that was. But who'd you watch? Like, who were your heroes?
Mitch Hedberg was an early hero.
So those are the comics.
Yeah, one-liner people blew me away.
Rodney?
I was too young to get Rodney. Now I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't get Norm Macdonald, obviously timely. But yeah, the people you see on SNL.
How old are you now?
I'm 42.
Oh, so you're getting up there.
Yeah.
You're a grown person.
I'm no kid, yeah.
So I like the Jewish idea. Like I used to, I wrote a bit about, when you read Jewish literature, you read biblical tales, or you read the Bible in general. That I think the line I wrote was, in Christianity, the wages of sin is death, and in Judaism, the wages of sin is death. That there seemed to be an ongoing conversation.
Well, Simon Rich, you know him, one of my favorite comedy writers.
Yeah.
He has a very sort of Judaically influenced, I think, sort of moral. It's funny, Judaism. Yeah, because you are always negotiating with God, and it's so legalistic.
Yes.
You know, well, if you do this, but then that, if you think of it this way.
Right.
And that's funny.
Yeah.
It's funny to negotiate.
Well, yeah, the back and
God
forth is funny.
It's very logic-based.
But it's also a conversation with the explanations of behavior, of spirituality, of God, of what's right and wrong. It's just this ongoing kind of thing.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, but I assume that the Jewish tradition, I just find it kind of fascinating that this book that your dad wrote is sort of like, it's all over. It covers everything. It covers, like those Talmudic tale, Hasidic.
Yeah.
The Hasidic tales and one-liners.
The Wise Men of Chelm.
Yeah, and and also comics.
Yeah.
Like actual comics.
Lenny Bruce.
But
comic strips. Yeah. Mad Magazine is in there.
Yeah.
All kinds of things.
So your dad never sat you down and said you're funny? They were always more concerned with your weird sort of unbridled
They were
ambition?
concerned about me. My dad loved when I was a comedy writer, did not like me being a performer, I could tell. Never said it, but didn't like it. Very un-Canadian. And he's a ghostwriter, so it's like the opposite of
He never wrote a nice novel?
He wrote a little nonfiction.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't write a novel.
And this nonfiction, did you read it?
Well, his first book, and good for him, was about marijuana in 1980, called High Culture. And it was like, he always donated to that cause before it was cool. And I always
so he's like, he liked the weed?
Yeah. A lot. I didn't know that he was doing drugs, quote unquote, until I was much older.
You didn't?
But yeah, he smoked weed every night of my life. And I did not know, even though he was a kaleidoscope collector, among other things. And would just crack up watching cartoons with me at night, or The Simpsons or Seinfeld every night.
Right.
Ice cream and comedy.
Yeah.
And it made him very happy. It still does.
Yeah.
But he didn't write that. And then, my parents, when I did a prank or something, my mom would be anxious, my dad would like it. But they did not think of me as
a funny kid.
No, they thought I was funny, sure, but they, I don't,
Yeah, you don't think
I think they thought that I would maybe get in trouble for that stuff,
but they were supportive, and it seems pretty well grounded, and not pushing you in any direction. They were just sort of like, whatever you want to do, you do.
I guess so. They didn't seem that interested. They weren't. They're nice. They were very all over me, but they never were like, "What are your plans or goals?" I would tell them goals, and they'd be like, "Hey, calm down." Like, they made my mom very nervous.
Yeah. Really? Why?
She's a very anxious person. Once I told her, can you believe Elon Musk is worth $20 billion?
Yeah.
And she said, whoa. I said, did you just get nervous he would lose it? And she said, I guess I did. Like, she's just nervous about success or
the
heights
responsibility
or anything.
of it.
I don't know. They did not like that I was so driven.
Huh. Because they thought you, but it wasn't because they were concerned.
My dad liked it more than my mom. My mom was very anxious about it. My dad, yeah.
But it wasn't. Were they concerned that you were going to come up against a problem that you seem to have, which is, can you be your comfortable, authentic self ever? They weren't separate.
They should have been, because I am. They weren't that enlightened.
They weren't seperating that from ambition. They're like, if all you care about is success, then how are you going to know who you are?
My mom's biggest fear was that I would be weak. And I remember I was in kindergarten, and I would walk around the I still remember vividly walking around the playground thinking things. And my mom said to me once, she must have been tipped off, "What do you do during recess?" Mm-hmm. And I said, I go for a walk and I think about things. And she looked so panicked, and she said, "You do not do that at recess. You play with the other kids." I said, "I don't know how." She said, "You go up to those kids and you say, 'What are you playing? Can I play with you?'" And so I did, and they said, "Sure."
Right.
And I played kickball from then on. But I never forgot. She was very nervous that I would be weird.
You never forgot how nice it was to just walk and think about things?
No, I still do it all the time. I never got to.
Me too.
Yeah.
Constantly. It's like it's the job in a way.
Yeah, it's totally the job.
But it's like it doesn't feel like a job.
And then you go home and write down what you thought about.
Exactly. Yeah. Or you work something out and you're like, oh, that's the angle.
Yeah. That's my ideal, is you go for a walk, you think about, you let your mind wander, you come up with things, and then you go home and write them, and then it never feels like work.
But I get excited when I don't read a lot of fiction because I want my brain to be provoked. And a lot of times fiction doesn't do that for me. Mm-hmm. So, I just read some new Douglas Copeland thing that he wrote with some other people called The Extreme Self about, technology's effect on our sense of self and the sort of expansion of what we leave in the world through technology. So, for me, that coincides with some things I'm thinking about and trying to execute on stage, and then I get excited. Mm-hmm. So, how do you stay out of just thought loops? But I guess you have a project. So, when you have to write 7 shows, 10 shows...
No, I obsess.
You do?
Yeah, it's a big problem. I obsess. And part of the reason,
About what?
Oh, God. Which story to choose, how to write everything. I change my mind constantly. I lose sleep over a scene that doesn't matter, and then I change it back. And then I say, wait, can you pull the edit of this episode? The scene should be different. And they're like, we can't unlock it. And I say... We got it. I'm constantly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But see, I think the difference then, I think I'm finding somewhat of a difference between you and me that would, obviously there are plenty, and I'm not comparing yourself to me, but on some level I am. We've chosen a similar path, but I do something much different and make, much less impact. So the idea for me, though, when I'm thinking about stuff, I really need to solve big problems that have to do with my understanding of the fucking world. Mm-hmm. Whereas, when you've created a world that you're servicing, at least you have a context that enables you. When you have a story, you're like, well, this is the puzzle. And, this has an impact, and it's informed by the bigger picture. Uh-huh. But this is my story within that I'm exploring.
Yeah, but I'm still working out what if. I'm just removing I'm doing the same thing you are, but I'm removing myself from it. I'm saying, it's not what if this happened to me, what would I do?
No, I get that.
Yeah,
but that's the problem. Thing. But that's the problem. Isn't that the problem?
With me?
Yes.
Well, yes and no. In a good way, it leads to a story that more people can grab onto.
I guess.
Because if it's Jim and Pam instead of you and your ex on The Office, okay, now you've kind of created something more universal.
I get that.
Yeah.
But honestly, though,
I can write for them. I can't write nearly as well about me and whoever I'm dating.
But I'm assuming that, when I watch those 5 episodes, that the only character that seemed truly informed by maybe parts of who you really are was that guy on the stand.
To me, the only person is Lola Kirk in The Commenter, the woman who is driven crazy by a single anonymous comment online.
Oh, okay.
That's the one I felt.
Okay.
Was me. Yeah.
Okay. So politically and in terms of where you stand as a progressive...
I'm not that progressive. I didn't relate to him that much.
Okay. Yeah. So The Commenter. So that's you.
That's
really?
Me. Yeah.
So okay, that makes sense.
Which is probably why I was obsessed with coming on your show.
That makes sense, though, because that character, I go through that.
Yeah.
So those were... That's interesting. So that was a crisis for you.
The plot of that is a woman who is getting constant and convincing positive feedback from everyone in her life.
Yes.
Gets one negative anonymous comment online and becomes obsessed with it and pulls that thread and gets more and more feedback that seems to be right.
Yes.
And she starts to trust that only the commenter is honest with her, and she throws away her life to pursue the commenter.
Yes.
That, to me, is my sort of fear and fantasy, that someone out there knows more. And it was what drove me creatively when I was doing stand-up, was that idea of the audience will know what to think of they'll tell me if this joke works or doesn't, or if they are comfortable.
Well, you'll know
not.
immediately.
You'll know immediately, and they're right.
Sure.
And I do think that a better level to be at as a comic is, I don't know, everyone's probably a different set point, is, and I think, Larry David and David Cross might be at the other extreme of, I know what I think is funny, and I don't give a fuck what you think.
Well, you at some point you have to get there, and I think you've gotten there to some degree.
This show is very much like, this is what I think.
Yeah, it's not as a stand-up, but I mean, at some point, you have to do in order to survive, and you have to at least believe that what you're doing is the job.
I remember one comment you said about me online that was very funny, and I liked it. I said, they say the biggest risk to take is no risk at all, so I'm going to be a boldest motherfucker out there and take no risks. And you said, seems to be working out for you. And I was like, damn, that is a very good burn. That is a very good burn. I get that. And yeah, so now I am. This show definitely does,
Well, that's good. Well, I think it's interesting, that thing, because I'm trying to figure out what my experience with being trolled is. And I did an episode of Maron that was actually about me pursuing a guy named Dragon Master to a Dungeons and Dragons game and figuring out where that guy was to ask him, why does he keep doing this to me? And he was just, I don't like you. It wasn't as thoughtful and sort of.
But it was more personal, or more directly personal.
It was based on a real thing, but it was a similar experience where a guy just was relentless about some of my comedy and was picking it apart on a comment board, and just accusing me of all these things, and it was really killing me. And
because it resonated.
Well, yeah, but your insecurity,
exactly.
is genuine, but it doesn't mean that those voices are correct. The voices that you have inside of yourself that say you suck, that's not credible necessarily. It's just part of your fucking engine. Right. But
then when someone else says it, you go, that's what I was thinking.
Well, yeah, but then I'm sure some people told you, but how come you don't pay attention to all the good ones?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Of course, yeah.
So I try to figure out what the fundamental issue in me around that stuff was, and I've done some research, and I've got a working model of what that is. I could tell you what that is, but I don't know if it resonates with your life. I got it from a guy named Robert Firestone, who wrote a book called The Fantasy Bond, and the idea is that if your parents were selfish or emotionally negligent, or maybe emotionally abusive, which mine weren't, but negligent, sure, where you're sort of left to your own devices because they were not the nurturing type or necessarily equipped to be selfless enough to properly parent or let you develop your own sense of self, or you become an extension of their panic or whatever. The idea was that if you feel uncomfortable as a kid, and it's because of your parents' emotional position in your life, you're not going to know that. So if you feel awkward as a kid, you can't blame them because they're your parents. They're the best.
Well, yeah.
So you're going to blame you. So then the voice you put inside your head at a very young age is, you're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're not this enough. Because that's the parents you invented, because your parents clearly can't be the blame. So it must be you. And that voice stays there. That was mind-blowing to me.
Yeah.
Does that affect you at all?
I think mine must be so subtle.
Really?
Yeah, because my parents, I've read your book. I know how dramatic your childhood was compared to mine. I did not have a dramatic childhood, and yet I do have all these issues. So
I don't know if it's dramatic. They were just self-involved.
Your dad's a dramatic character.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
My dad's a very undramatic character.
Well, but that could do it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is you can put anything on anything.
You've got. Well, I know.
He wasn't dramatic enough.
You've just got the boring version of it.
Honestly,
of the boring version.
You know,
of
it's funny.
Emotional neglect.
I had a therapist, and I said, I can't complain. Like my dad, my dad has a great subtle sense of humor, and I said, my dad, like, he always remembered me. He always reminded me of David Letterman, and he said, but you wanted Jimmy Fallon. I was like, I wanted Jimmy Fallon. I wanted like a rousing.
Letterman is one of the.
I love Letterman.
I know,
and I love my dad.
But he's one of the most emotionally crippled public people in the world.
That's interesting. I never connected that.
I mean, the more we hear from Letterman, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
He was like holding things pretty tight, man.
Yep. That's true. I don't know what my dad has
in there
that he's held in his Canadian reserve. Canadian Jewish, so it's...
Yeah, but I get it. But I mean, you haven't thoroughly investigated this. It's not pressing enough for you to honor your authenticity and your ability to be comfortable in your own
self. No, you're right. It's my new number one priority.
Starting now?
Starting this Rosh Hashanah. It's been on my mind. Yeah, I'd like to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like that whole thing. I mean.
Well, because I'd like to be more honest.
Well, is it? But I don't.
I'd like to be happier. I'd like.
Would
everything.
you though?
Yeah. I also think, and this is also very convenient logic. I think I'm much more productive and creative when I'm happy. That is where I get all my best.
So you've
stuff.
been happy.
I've been happy. Yeah. I go in and out. When I'm happy, I'm better. I don't know. A lot of people feel more inspired when they're miserable. I don't.
Yeah, I don't think it's a choice. Like, that whole sort of paradigm of like, you're just miserable because you think it makes you more creative. Like, I don't choose to do whatever the fuck my brain is doing. I've gone periods where, I don't know if I've been happy, but I've been more self-accepting, and I have peace of mind.
Yeah.
And I'm not, freaking out about something
and then you're just honest about that and funny about that.
I try to
just react to wherever you are.
Yeah, I know, but it doesn't. People don't necessarily feel safe as an audience with that, which I think I'm gathering is another difference in terms of why I see that maybe we have something in common. Yet however you've managed your life, enables you to have a lot more of your shit together than I ever did. And again, I'm older than you. And we are totally different people, but the truth is, because I'm primarily a stand-up and now an actor, and I do the podcast. It's like when I just did 5 shows in St. Louis because I'm trying to put together a new hour, and during the late shows, I do clubs, so I can do the work to build it out, and the only way I can do the work is to improvise. So. Second show, when it gets weird and I'm bored with myself and I start talking very personally about my girlfriend's tragic death or my fucking parents, I realize, is this entertainment? I don't know, but it's what I do. So I don't think that I'm for everybody, obviously, but I don't think that I ever was. There was never a safety wall between me.
When did you know you weren't for everybody? Because I just found it out about myself.
Yeah, but the thing is, you're for enough people in a general way. I mean, you have parents who have kids that love your book. You have, short fiction that sold very well. So you're of an ilk of people that you're
can be more generally crowd pleasing, is what you're saying.
Not just crowd pleasing, but of a way. Like I relate to that guy. I'd like to meet him. He doesn't scare me.
Yeah.
I'm sure that, like, in your life, no matter how many relationships you've been in, the women you've been with aren't going like, yeah, he's a very scary man.
I don't know. Yeah, there's some,
Yeah.
I mean, things can hide behind subtlety. You're looking at me like, oh, I see it. I see it right now.
The anger?
No, not anger, but just
like crazy? Like,
whatever.
Insecure,
no one
jealous.
is. I thought for many years, I'm like Jerry Seinfeld. I'm the one who is not fucked up. I'm the one who's just.
Did you listen to his interview with me?
Yeah.
He couldn't be more fucked up. That guy, there's no one more fucked up than Jerry Seinfeld.
There you go. It's always Mulaney. It's always who you least expect. Mulaney was the most normal guy. And now you're like, oh, okay, that's what.
But when I met him, I'm like, what's going on in there? Same with you.
Same with Seinfeld. Well, yeah.
Same with you. No,
by the way, I'm relieved. I want some of that to come out.
Well, what are you going to do? How are you going to do it?
Doing therapy. I resolved
on
this show.
Have you started doing stand-up again?
I'd like to. I want to. But you're laughing at me.
You could do a one-man show?
Like Neil Brennan at the Cherry Lane. I want to, and I think I will.
Neil Brennan's very self-actualized and
he's
self-aware.
But he was very depressed.
But also
time.
like,
and a mess.
He's able to track, so much of his issues to, a fairly alcoholic family. And there was, definitely kind of general groups of a certain type of recovery that were available to him for him to process a lot of that stuff.
But I think, I would like to go do it again, but I would want to do something very different. And so that's another motivation to sort of find who I really am.
But, Jerry doesn't think he's fucked up.
That's what and I didn't either, is what I'm saying.
But he still doesn't. I don't know if I know it. Again, well, I know it about me, but with Jerry, like, my belief about what comedy is and what it can do is very different than his. Mm-hmm. But what you did see in him was, emotionally, he's wrapped very tight.
Yeah.
And that, and that there is, a certain amount of darkness there, and you can track it in that interview. Mm-hmm. The guy was brought up by 2 orphans.
Yeah. That was insane to learn. That's like a parody of... Yeah.
Neither one of them were parented. And how do you know how to be parents? So he's left to his own devices to put himself together.
And that's who he becomes, the most put together comic ever.
So what happened to you?
Well, I don't know.
What do you mean? Stop it.
I don't know what happened to me.
Come on, you're a smart guy. You thought about it.
When it bursts out, I'll be the greatest comic.
You ever cry?
Yeah.
About what?
Oh, man. I don't know. All kinds of things. Uh-huh. Yeah. You don't buy it. Do you cry? I mean,
I'm about to cry now. Maybe you just don't want to, man. Maybe cause
I do. What do I keep saying?
I don't know, but
I'm going to say I don't want to.
But see, I knew with Mulaney only because he'd been sober so goddamn long since he was a kid.
Right.
And he's another guy, hyper achiever, tight, control freaky guy in a way, in terms of his work. Apparently he's processing all this stuff on stage because now his fucking life is public because he's a big enough celebrity to draw that kind of attention. Mm-hmm. So now he has to reckon with it in his jokes. But he always kind of did. But he always had sort of a patter that hid the darkness.
Yeah.
That there was that sort of this kind of almost 1940s talk that hid the real darkness of what he was talking about. But it was always sort of there.
Right, and Seinfeld too. Seinfeld,
I guess
even his sort of most easygoing stuff has a lot of sort of bitterness turned into affability.
So. Yes,
which is a great weapon of it.
And
then there's Larry David powering the TV show along with him.
Yeah, well, that made sense.
It's a great combination.
Yeah. So, all right. So this show, someone said you were in my hometown. Was it for this show?
It was for the movie I shot.
Yeah. What is
Vengeance? I was in Albuquerque.
Yeah. When's that coming out?
You say that like that's never coming out?
No, I'm saying that this is just another thing you've done. How much you did? You never stopped working, it seems. And I don't know why I'm spiteful about that. Because there's part of me it's like, when are you gonna just relax and figure out who the fuck you are, so we can all assess you properly?
Yes. No, I need to do that.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do.
You never
want
have
to do that
for yourself.
Yeah, for myself. By the way, I lived at Odenkirk's house. And then
I know.
The other day, I turned on my HBO Max, and there's an Odenkirk account. So he's using the HBO Max.
Oh, is he? Oh, why not?
I was honored. I love.
He bought that house from a guy I grew up with.
Oh, cool.
What was I going to say? The other issue was, I think that what people criticize you about, specifically me and Andy King.
Yes. I was like, yes.
Is that you got a golden ticket,
right?
Out of Harvard,
right?
And because you did the whole thing, right? You did the Lampoon, you did the Hasty Pudding or whatever.
I did the Lampoon, yeah.
And what was the other silly show?
I didn't do that. The Hasty Pudding. I didn't do that.
Isn't there another one? That's the one. That's the one. Yeah. So you did the Lampoon,
right?
Which I visited. It's so weird, they had me come over to give me the prize, but I don't drink or nothing, which seemed to disappoint them. So, but they invite me over to do that ceremony there, and I'm like, these guys are fucking kids. What is this?
Yeah. It's amazing.
But it'd become mythic in my head.
It is mythic. Look, you're saying they were just kids.
Yeah.
But that building and those ceremonies is crazy.
Yeah, I don't know much about them other than the one where they give the guy thing. I think that everybody was disappointed.
Okay.
I don't think they were that excited. Yeah, they, because usually they want to drink or you got to.
Yeah, but they knew that about you.
I guess. I don't know, man. So what's so amazing about it?
I mean, if you didn't respond to it, you didn't respond to it. It's just.
Well, no, I like the Lampoon. I like it.
Yeah, it's this psychotic thing. this castle built by an insane person on an island in Harvard Square, where 18-year-olds at Harvard, who could go in any direction they want, instead devote their lives to the most esoteric comedy and anti-comedy to make each other laugh. I mean, it's this insane system.
That is the system.
So to me, I understand the privilege that I come from and look like I come from. Yeah. But to mitigate it, it was fucking hard to get into Harvard. It was fucking hard to go through that lampoon. It makes you nuts. Yeah. You know, and so that's its own thing. I'm not saying that Andy Kindler is wrong that I got a golden ticket, but like in my mind, it's like, dude, I worked so like I heard that Conan was in the Lampoon. I was like, I got to get into Harvard Lampoon, you know.
So, but that was the thing, is that you always put the work in to get there. That, you know, those of us who, you know, like
But it would be also fun to, like, you know, have fun along the way.
But you did not.
No. I mean, I liked what I was doing. But
the Lampoon was fun, though. You seemed to get excited.
Yeah, it's a fascinating thing.
Fun? No fun.
It's a lot of fun and a lot of like, you know, spiraling about what the hell is this?
Oh yeah?
Yeah. It's weird.
So when you're but
you have dreams about it for the rest of your life if you're in it.
Really?
Yeah.
This sounds like traumatic.
Yeah, I think it's probably like, not that it's nearly as important because it's the most irrelevant in the world, but like SNL, people that are on SNL,
right?
I dream about it for years.
Yeah.
Which is this weird high pressure thing.
But isn't there like sort of like isn't there a kind of did you doesn't I've talked to other people about this, and I wish I had more discipline as a kid and could have gotten into Harvard, but I did not. Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, isn't there some sort of older boys network that kind of functions in Hollywood? Is that a myth that when you come out of Hollywood, if you did well at the Lampoon or if you have a reputation within these circles, aren't there people that are like, you should check out this kid Novak, he's writing a thing, so Greg Daniels knew about you from somebody else?
Yes.
As Andy Kindler would say.
Yes.
Bip-bop-boop.
Right. That said, I get it. Being on the other side of it, it's like, okay, these people were literally trained. Yeah. It's like a pre-professional program in comedy.
Yes.
For like A students, and you have your own show and you're freaking out.
Right.
And you're like, I have 5 slots. I have 7 slots.
Yeah.
You know, okay, who do you know?
Right.
So I get it.
Okay.
You know.
Right. So you got a shot because you did the work, but the work that you did is seen, mistakenly so perhaps, as privileged.
Mistakenly a little bit, and a little bit totally true. Yeah, of course. I grew up in the kind of like healthy suburban, like book-filled house.
Right.
That was a very reasonable.
Does that even exist anymore? Is it going to even exist anymore?
No, I don't think it does, because I think that, you know, when I was growing up, you picture like, oh, Ames, Iowa.
Yeah.
You know, any town you haven't heard of, you assume is idyllic. Now, any town you haven't heard of, you assume is like a methed out wasteland.
Or you assume it's an option.
What do you mean?
That people are leaving for those towns, dude. I was just in St. Louis, man.
Oh.
And, you know, cost of living's cheap. It's sort of on the...
Yeah, now it's evening out again, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of on the up and up.
Yeah.
You know, they're renovating. There's, you know, I mean, you know, gentrifying, you know, whatever your opinions about that are.
Right.
But, I mean, a lot of these places... Like, well, Vermont's not a meth hole, but I mean, like, I've been...
No, are you kidding? Vermont is the biggest heroin problem in the country.
Heroin's different. You know, it's a slower situation. but
it's a problem
I get
the lines of meth. Yeah.
But I'm saying that a lot of these non-coastal cities that have a good cost of living and some urban infrastructure are appealing to people.
Yeah.
I mean, this place is, like, I think it's all going to be on fire soon. Right. And whatever's going on the East Coast, it's going to be water involved.
Well, it was the first time recently I heard someone say we're gonna leave for fire season.
Yeah, no, I did a bit about that in my last special.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that, you know, like it's a little early this year. Fire. Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah.
But anyways, just to reconfigure your sense of Ames, Iowa.
Yeah.
Isn't that where the University of Iowa is?
Yeah, that's why it was in my mind. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. That's Iowa City. But Ames has a big university there.
Iowa City. Yeah,
Iowa City is the famous writers thing. Yeah, Iowa City's idyllic, for sure.
Well, I'm going to Bloomington,
Indiana
next week. I haven't been everywhere. And Bloomington, like itself, the college town, is kind of interesting, but it's a little weird. But everything surrounding it.
Well, every college town in a red state, yeah.
Yeah. But Yeah, I don't know what happens to that life. I mean, you caught the tail end of it, I think, your generation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because the people I worshipped were probably, of your father's generation, or maybe a little older. How old is he?
He is 72.
Yeah. Like that crew of intellectuals who sort of came up in the 70s. I mean, those are the guys that defined most of what we think is funny. And it sounds like, if anything, you got a good dose of that from growing up around it. Plus, whoever was appealing and more age alike to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, like, I don't know what happens now. I don't know where it all
Nobody
goes.
knows, yeah.
Everything's so fucking decentralized.
And also, yeah, it's decentralized. And I think stand-up is where it is right now. Don't you think?
Well, stand-up's become very tribalized, and unfortunately, what's being pushed culturally is provocative stand-up, and, the enemy seems to be progressivism. So I don't know. Like, this sort of anti-woke movement of stand-up is a little problematic, and I don't know that there's much pushback in any organized way against it, but it seemed to be taking up a lot of space. Fuck you, you can't censor me.
But I mean, as a form, like, what is the ultimate thing to aspire to?
Well, look, again.
Now I think stand-up is bigger than movies.
I don't know.
No?
I don't know. I really don't know what everyone's taken in. Do you know? I know
nobody knows anymore. That's it.
Right.
There's no cultural hierarchy anymore.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's I don't know what to do with that.
You're it.
No, it's shifting.
No, but you're the poster of what
beginning
it is now.
of whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know what to do with it because I don't know.
But that's the thing. You don't do anything with it.
I guess
you're it.
But how many people are going to watch your show, and is it going to be enough?
Enough in terms of,
I don't know. Like, what are you hoping to glean from that? You get an award, or are you like concerned about like how many people are watching? How do we find out now?
I want all of that stuff, but what really is like that some teenager like I will see that and always talk about it, always think about it. And I don't watch award shows.
But you're okay with one teenager?
No, I want millions, but like but it's about, I don't care. Like, to me, the South Park guys are the ultimate.
Right.
Like, you never see them at the fucking Emmys. They're not like directing a Marvel movie because it's status.
Right.
They make South Park, and everyone who sees South Park knows what the hell it is. They're at another level, You
don't think you could wrap your brain around directing a Marvel movie if you were asked?
No, I couldn't.
But what if they were like, but you can bring your thing to it?
I just don't like Marvel movies.
Me neither.
Yeah.
But if you thought like, well, maybe I could do one, but push back against the Marvel.
That would be just self-justification. I would.
Exactly.
I know. Yeah, I couldn't.
Okay.
On that level, I couldn't.
Look, man, I shit on Marvel movies, and I was in the Joker for 2 seconds.
That's not a Marvel movie.
Exactly.
That I could do.
It.
That's
You could do
the
DC?
King of Comedy version. That's cool. Right. So I would say, well, if it's like,
But yeah, I did say that.
yeah,
Didn't
if it's like the Mr. Show version
right.
of a Marvel
and now I'm
movie,
doing
I
a
suppose.
voice for DC Super Pets, and people are like, "This is the guy that doesn't like comic book movies." It's like, it's different. It's DC,
well,
and it's,
DC isn't Marvel. Voice is different. Yeah, sure. I would.
I'm
I would
Lex
read
Luthor.
the sides.
Yeah. Yeah, play Lex Luthor for the dog versions of the superheroes.
That's cool. All right, fine. Yeah, maybe.
But, all right, so what's Vengeance about, dude?
Vengeance, I play a podcaster, an aspiring podcaster.
Oh, so you're in it.
I'm in it.
And
yeah.
you wrote it.
Yeah, and directed it.
Uh-huh. What are you trying to prove, man? Where's it, like, you've done everything, so, like, where does this level off? Is it just that you want to keep doing everything? And, like, you've done the acting, you've done the writing, you've done a little bit of stand-up, you direct, and now, like, you're hosting an anthology show where you talk at the beginning and write all of them. And now, is this the drive to greatness?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I mean, but it's excitement. Like, I take that walk, and I'm like, oh, that would be a cool movie. And then this would happen, and then I do that, and then I do it like that. And then I try to make good on all those things that I come up with.
Okay.
And it's exciting.
And your experience in getting opportunities to do these things is that your past opportunities have shown enough benefit or profit that you're given opportunities, or that you seem totally capable of handling what you're asking for. Why do you get so many opportunities?
I think some combination of willing it into being and looking like the kind of guy that wouldn't screw it up.
Right. Now, what's the movie about? It's a podcaster.
Kind of fuckboy, as it were. A girl that he was casually hooking up with dies of an overdose in West Texas.
Oh.
And then he is, the family thought that they were very, very serious relationship, so he's kind of guilted into going to the funeral.
Yeah.
When he's there, the brother, played by Boyd Holbrook, says, we need to avenge her death. I call my podcast producer, played by Issa Rae, and say, I have a great story about this, poor, devastated Red State family that thinks they need vengeance for something. Yeah. And so it's sort of like this, it's with Blumhouse. It's sort of like a Red State, like Blue State podcast intellectual, like thriller type thing. It's fun.
And it's all done?
It's all shot. Yeah, I'm editing it now.
Yeah, and how's it come out? How's it look?
I think it's great, but we'll see.
And you don't know the future of it.
It will come out.
Right.
But nobody knows the future of any movie now. What does that mean? Is it in theaters? Is it Peacock? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
How do you do people watch them?
They won't tell you.
I don't know.
Well,
look, do you feel better about us?
I'm kind of blown away. Yeah. I'm looking. You seem very open and vulnerable and true. I don't know what you're going to say about me in the intro, though. No, that's what I get.
Do you feel like you've been open and vulnerable and true as much as you can?
Yeah. I don't know what I feel like. I've lost this. Part of me is sad. I'm like, oh no.
So I'm okay with Marc. Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, don't worry about that.
Yeah. So, but I mean, ultimately, you're going to have to come back when you have the catharsis that enables you to somehow connect your true self. Just